What's up, Thomas?
I'm great. Happy to be here at Lansdowne Park, ready to head over to camp.
Yeah, we know that from the last time you joined us that you're a big cyclist. Are you going to cycle from Lansdowne out to Ashburn to Commanders Park, or are you going to take like motorized transportation?
Believe me, amid my research last night, I was looking at trails and road rides to do around this. This is a beautiful area, so I might do that. I don't know yet.
Ah, very good.
You can link up with Brian Mitchell, our
That's
coworker
right.
here, Brian Mitchell. I think he's going to do a ride to Dewey Beach, Cakes.
Yeah, he's trying to raise money for autism research. So good for him.
Fantastic.
Yep. So are you going to have like those pining feelings when you're out there with Dan Quinn, when you see him with Adam Peters today at Commanders Park? You're like, this is bringing back the memories of when we were together with the Falcons. Is it going to be a nostalgia-filled visit today when you're out there in Ashburn?
I think it's going to be a great visit, and I'm looking forward to it. I have not visited a camp since we were released from Atlanta back in 20. So this is kind of new for me. All my life I grew up around camps. My dad worked for the Browns, and I've always been around professional football. So this is going to be good. It'll be great to see Dan. It'll be great to see Adam, because Adam worked for us, of course, at New England when I was there. So this will be great.
Take us through the day-to-day for a GM, like a current GM like Adam Peters or you when you were back with Atlanta. What is a typical day, like 7 days into training camp, like? I mean, I know that you're obviously focused on the team that you're running, but you also have to have a pulse on and an eye on the other teams for personnel that you're evaluating there. We know that Adam Peters brought in Riley Patterson a couple days ago to help with the kicking situation here with the Commanders. Talk about the day-to-day for the GM, in those dog days, first 7 to 10 days of camp.
Yeah, gentlemen, I'll try to summarize it. It is not easy. I mean, even if you jump back and look at Hard Knocks and watch Joe Shane knocking around like a madman, every day there's something going on. There's 20 things going on. So in training camp, you're structured, of course, because you have the structure of the practices normally, and everything is fitting into place. But you're busy from 6 in the morning all the way until 11 at night. You are always looking at your depth charts. You are always analyzing your roster. You are talking with your scouts. Of course, you're speaking with your head coach probably 5 to 10 times a day. That's Dan Quinn's style, by the way. Dan and Adam, I'm sure, meet constantly throughout the day, talking about how they upgrade, talking about how they adjust, where the players are on the field and how they are performing. We used to knock out all kinds of discussions about where the competitive toughness was within that practice, that week, et cetera, et cetera. So you're always discussing with the head coach, with your personnel staff. You're also on the phone probably talking with your owner here and there, giving them an update or his designee, as well as talking to the president, as well as trying to go out and do some media, and also, of course, talking with some of the marketing people. If you have that type of a general manager role, there is a lot on the plate, and there is a lot of pressure on a general manager in today's NFL for sure.
Thomas, tell our listeners why the Commanders hit a home run by hiring Dan Quinn. I know that there were rumors that they wanted Ben Johnson. That kind of fizzled, and then he wound up not taking a head coaching job anywhere, basically intimating he wasn't ready for that sort of responsibility yet, wasn't ready to leave that cocoon of Detroit quite yet, and Dan Quinn is the guy. Give us the reasons why he was hired here and why you think he'll be successful here.
Look, I think Dan Quinn was just a knock it out of the park hire by Adam Peters and the Commanders, of course. I think it was great for Adam to have a guy like Dan with all of his experience and all of his personality, his positive, passionate, and persevering personality, which I know that's alliteration, gentlemen, but I love it because that's what I believe in, and that's what Dan is. I think he comes in with Adam, and they make a really good pairing because, Adam coming into his first year has a lot of new elements that he's facing, and he faces it with a coach that is, again, has all the knowledge and all the background and is not an egomaniacal head coach who just wants massive control of everything. He and Adam can work very well together. That is my number one thought from a GM perspective. Now, as far as Dan coming in and being what he is for this team, we know it. He's a culture builder. You guys talk about it on and on here. You don't need me to tell you that. But I will tell you, inside the halls of an organization and a building, he lives it. He is authentic. There is no contrived element. That is him from start in the morning until time he goes to bed. I mean, he's still smiling, again, with a look. Sometimes that smile is a different smile, of course, but he is fired up, as you know. He is directed towards what needs to be taken care of. I'm sure coming into this time around, he will look, as you guys all know, and you guys have talked to him about it, he will delegate more effectively and efficiently like everyone does, right? We all do it. I would delegate so much differently if I came back another round. He works, again, always working with the coaches and the players and having them included on that collaborative side. That is true to his form. No faking that at all.
Joined by Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons GM, current president of football operations at SumerSports.com. You're talking about delegating. And when you look at Quinn's staff, Quinn, Kingsbury, and Anthony Lynn, and unless I'm missing somebody else, all have head coaching experience. So Quinn doesn't feel like he has to put all of it on his plate. He can delegate and let let Anthony Lynn handle the rushing attack. Let Cliff Kingsbury scheme up the offense, and he can be the CEO type. Do you like having all that head coaching experience on the same staff?
I love having all that head coaching experience. And I think Dan, again, his approach is going to be, he's going to listen to them appropriately. He's going to also be the final say when it needs to be done, and he'll be focused on that, which I think is vital. Look, I think it shows a lot of confidence and security in a man coming into a really strong job here in Washington.
Thomas, so you mentioned Hard Knocks, and this Hard Knocks, the Giants version, you get a little look into how a front office works. And I got to tell you, I never realized there'd be like 9 guys in a room talking about something. And maybe you can talk about your website, because SumerSports.com, you're using AI to help teams make decisions. Can it be streamlined now with AI? Do you need all those people? It's just how does it work?
Well, it's a great point. And I think having all those people involved, that's why they're there. You want their input. It doesn't matter what we do in roster optimization and data analysis and emerging technology, AI, of course. You have to understand that it's not black box. It is 100% an augmentation tool for people like the general managers in this league, for Adam Peters, for Joe Shane in that specific situation. It's about, yes, tempering some of that extracurricular, but you still have to have those meetings. You still need to interact with the football people to bring all the pieces together.
What stat, I'm looking at some of your data. What stat to you do you think is most important for success? You have something there like success rate on offense. The San Francisco 49ers were number 1, Dallas number 2 last year. What's a stat fans can look at and go, okay, this is really meaningful?
Well, look, I look at all of that at so many levels. I'm always talking to all the academics in our group. We have between 40 and 50 data scientists and engineers. Imagine that.
Wow.
No one has that in their organization, so we think we can supply that, of course. Listening to those people talk, sometimes I have to take the propeller off their head, and I say that lovingly, right? These guys are outrageously intelligent, and I have to bring them to a football perspective. So when we get talking about all the data, remember, all the football people want data and box scores they've been using for years and years and years, right? Mm-hmm. Then you add on to the end of that, the 5 or 6 or whatever it may be, advanced analytics that our groups are working on that we think, again, can help the juxtaposition on whatever you're looking at, the players, the team, the contracts, et cetera, et cetera. So there are so many. I mean, I'm learning more and more about the WAR metric and the expected WAR. Don't ask me to explain it algorithmically, but suffice it to say there are some vital stats there and data there that we all can grow off of.
Thomas, take us back to Atlanta a bit here. What was one of your toughest personnel calls as a GM? Because from watching Hard Knocks, we see Joe Shane. He clearly seems tortured by not being able to keep Saquon Barkley because they had to allocate so much money to sign Daniel Jones, and he just wasn't willing to meet the price to keep Barkley on the roster, even though the owner's right there basically telling him, look, I love Saquon Barkley. He's our most popular player. Like, he's putting pressure on him to keep Barkley. He made a business decision to let him walk to a division rival. Do you have like a move or two that stands out in your head that you were going back and forth on that was tough for you to make back in the day?
Well, look, I think if anything, we were very fortunate to keep most of our players. Everyone loves playing for Dan Quinn at that time, right? You would ask anyone and their favorite coach to ever play for, not because he was light on them at all. I mean, he would press and push. but because he had their back and he was working with them. So we kept most of those types of players. I think my tough decisions came much more, do I extend these big contracts in that era, right? When we moved Matt Ryan to the first $30 million quarterback, big decision. Took a lot of heat around the country. And I knew, give me 2 months, gentlemen, and this is going to be like, they'll be flying by him. Julio Jones, the same situation. I loved Julio, would have never done anything different about acquiring Julio. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, respectfully to the Hall of Famers out there. Yet that third contract that we signed, that was one that was very difficult for us to work through. And it caused a little bit of strain because they always do, right? They're business moves.
What do you see in the rookie quarterback, specifically in Jaden Daniels, who gets drafted here number 2 by the Washington Commanders?
I am so excited to watch Jaden, watching him come up, the 2 years before, and watching his progression, which I'm a huge fan of. When you watch someone progress, there were thoughts out there, well, maybe he's going to go back to what he was. I'm all about progression. He did a great job. I love where he's moving now. I love how he's handling himself, at least from afar, and the information that I have. He is such, as we know, rare athlete, rare ability to move around and make things happen on top of being able to complete at all levels. I mean, this guy comes in as a complete quarterback, as a young guy, a lot of work to do. I think, did a good job in Atlanta by making sure Matt Ryan was able to move along well and get the right people around him. I think Washington, what Adam Peters and Dan are doing, placing pieces around him. I'm a big believer in using tight ends to help that transition for the young quarterback. I think it's vital to get Zach Ertz in here, to get your receiving group as you are, running backs, work with that quarterback and take a little bit of pressure off him. Then I just think he has the ability to thrive.
What sort of reps would you expect for Daniels in the upcoming 3 preseason games, just 8 days away from the first one against the Jets on August 10th?
Well, I can't outline everyone, but generally speaking, I'm about getting your guy reps, right? Get that cat reps now and get him more and more comfortable. He's doing a really good job, interacting with the team, and the people are believing in him on the team, of course. Get him out on the field, get him experienced on some of the nuances of the speed of the NFL. I think it's vital. Again, protect him. Don't put him in the odd spot, but make sure that you are growing with every day and every play on the field. That's my perception.
Bigger picture, what did you think of the new kickoff rules? We saw the first glimpse of it last night in the Hall of Fame game. I'm all for it because, look, you're taking a play that's become where they kick the ball off, it goes through the end zone. There's no real action or excitement to the play. The returns have basically been nullified before now. Now you're going to have more chances for returns, more exciting plays. What do you think of the new rules?
I've always been on the front end of the curve as far as, hey, let's look at this and see if it's going to be beneficial. I know it's a year-long testing market for this. I was concerned a little bit about the pandemonium of how things are going to be, but here's the reality. We have so many smart coaches and special teams coaches in this league. They are going to make it right. They are going to adjust and adapt like we will always in the NFL and see how it plays out. The one thing that I'm not that keen about is I loved the element of surprise on onside kicks. And I know you still have to announce the onside kick in the, I think it's in the fourth quarter. That's the only thing that I liked, being able to catch someone off guard every once in a while, a la Sean Payton. And not that I'm ever lauding Sean Payton and the Saints as a former Falcon, but you know what I mean.
All right, Thomas, know you got to run. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Yep.
You can check out SumerSports.com. It's got all kinds of great data, analytics. He, of course, was the GM of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
And Cake's good memory that he was a cyclist.
I did remember that, yeah.